Good morning. Not a bad campsite. This isn't exactly where we planned to be this morning, but can't complain. Sometimes when things go wrong, you stumble onto some little gems. Here's how we got to this point.
I'm crossing the Columbia River, headed north from Oregon up into Washington. I've been up in Washington countless times over my lifetime, but this is the first ever Softroading the West excursion into this state.
So this is Harley, and you may know him on Instagram as Hudson Z Roamer. Those of you who are forester people, especially SH forester people, may also know him formerly as Fuzz Roamer. So this is the guy that built Fuzz Roamer.
Hey guys.
And he has now built this amazing truck. We had a few things that didn't go quite right, but
it worked out.
It works out. Sometimes when things go wrong, you make some discoveries. We never ever would have come down this road otherwise.
Yeah, totally.
What do you think, Luke?
This is Luke. Luke Skywalker.
As you might have guessed from the arid, treeless scenery, we are over on the east side of the Cascade Range, which splits Washington into wet and dry sides, much as it does in Oregon. The route I have planned, however, is actually bringing us back up the flanks of the range, gaining elevation as we go.
We've just stopped to air down here, and already just the first quarter mile up the road is already amazing. Really some gorgeous country. You letting the air out of 2 tires at once? Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Climbing higher and higher up above this canyon. It's really beautiful, sort of treeless desert sagebrush area, but I think as we move towards the west we're going to get more into some trees. Well, we've just trudged, I don't know how many miles, and what have we been driving for? An hour?
Yeah, hour at least.
And in an area that's definitely open because the gate was open at the other end. I paid to get in here, and yet we can't get back out. Well, that's super annoying, but that's the way it goes sometimes. The only thing I can figure out is that we were near the boundary of BLM land that we were on, and it was about to go into some state land. And I guess the BLM is open and the state land isn't. That's my only guess. It's getting a little late to drop back down to the highway and loop back up to get into the area that I was trying to get to, which I'm positive is still possible. So we're gonna explore this area a little bit and see if we can find a spot to camp up here.
We're now in the process of backtracking back towards the highway while poking up every little side road we can find, hoping to stumble upon a decent campsite for tonight.
So we found a pretty decent campsite with a nice view of some empty valleys down below us. It's not perfectly level, but we're working on getting the trucks leveled. I found a few rocks, get the Frontier level enough, and Harley's getting his leveled out as well.
I've worked for big silicone companies like Apple, Stanford.
Long time.
Yeah, same with me, man.
And so months and months ago I said,
Super simple dinner tonight, just heating up some sausage with a packet of pre-cooked lentils and some kind of Indian sauce.
I stumble across elk all the time, especially in the Coast Range. But they're so spooky. They run so fast, and they're so hard to capture. You never get a good look at them.
In the other direction, a couple of hunters are working their way along a hillside above us. Turns out it's opening day of deer season in Washington, and the dirt roads are suddenly teeming with trucks.
because that gate was closed that gets through from this area to the area I was trying to get to, we're gonna have to drop back down to the highway, which put some air back in the tires, and drive back up into the mountains on the highway.
We're back on the highway, but it's an enjoyable drive through this pretty little canyon as we head up into the trees.
So when I was scouting this area, making plans for routes and possible campsites, I couldn't help noticing what looked like some sort of pretty big rock formation. And if you know me, you know I can't resist a rock formation. Well, there's just a few too many trees up in here, and just no clearing spot at all. And so I can see that rock formation is there, but I can't quite really see it. So I'm gonna just see if I can get some views by flying up. So that is all the drone footage I have of the rock. I was gonna try and sort of fly a little closer, get some different views and show some of you can see a little bit of a lake off there in the background. But at one moment, my screen just went blank and all of a sudden I stopped hearing the drone and I looked up and it just fell straight out of the sky. In fact, two things fell straight out of the sky. Apparently, I hadn't got the battery seated onto the body of the drone well enough. It was on there well enough to make a good enough connection to power up and fly, but with just enough of the vibration, that battery jiggled itself off and just dropped right off of the drone, and then the drone just came boom straight down. And it was probably, I'm gonna say it was up over the trees 50 feet maybe. Maybe not quite, 40 to 50 feet. But fortunately, it had not gone far at all, and it basically dropped right in front of us. Was able to walk right over to where the drone was, and Harley actually found the battery sitting on the ground not far away. Put it all back together, and it is all working, but I busted some props off of there, so I'll repair the props later on. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. That's really annoying. There's no indication of why the road is closed up here. We're clearly out of fire season. We're not into the sort of elk feeding protective season or whatever. There's no snow. I don't know. This road essentially connects up to the road we were on yesterday where we ran into that gate, but that gate is more than 5 miles from that sign. So I don't know, I'm gonna drive on up anyway and see if we can get up onto the ridgeline at least a little bit, even if we can't drive the whole thing like I wanted to. Getting some really nice views. I forgot to check my odometer at the sign that said road closed 5 miles ahead. I'm really hoping we can at least just get up onto the top of this ridge, out of the trees, and take in the view.
I did not turn on a camera while talking with a ranger stationed at the road closure, also blocking a potential backup route I had in mind. He said ongoing wildfire cleanup was underway. Since our fall rains had already come, I hadn't given any thought to fire closures. Back home, I did find there had recently been a fire pretty much spanning the entire area I had planned to explore.
So both roads up in here are indeed closed. There was even a Forest Service ranger sitting right there to make sure no one went past.
Try this.
Yeah, it seems like there's someone camped in each of the spots.
Between the fire closure plus hunters and hunting camps everywhere else we've been, we're going to cut our losses. Harley is heading north and I'm veering south. I do have a new idea though. As I work my way towards my new destination, I'm treated to another beautiful highway drive featuring stunning views of Mount Rainier dominating the landscape. At 14,411 feet, Rainier towers over the paltry 11,249 feet of Oregon's highest peak, Mount Hood. I've also been catching glimpses of some pretty dramatic waterfalls along the way.
I've been waiting 40 years for this. That is Mount St. Helens, and while it's far from the tallest or most spectacular peak in the Cascade Range, it's arguably the most interesting. At least to me, it's the most interesting. I was a kid when Mount St. Helens erupted, and at the time, I was super into volcanoes. And so a volcano virtually right in my backyard actually erupting was just, you know, and ash from Mount St. Helens even fell in Eugene, down where I lived. When I was a kid, we would frequently travel up I-5 to the Tacoma area in Washington where we have family. And I would always say, oh, I want to go see Mount St. Helens. I want to go see Mount St. Helens. And to me, it was just like, it was just right there, right? You can see Mount St. Helens from I-5 as you're going up. As a kid, you know, I didn't understand travel time or what a detour that would have been. And now that I've actually driven out here, I understand that it never would have been possible. My desire to see Mount St. Helens up close has never faded. I've just never managed to make it happen.
From one of the viewpoints, you can look down on what remains of Spirit Lake. 40 years later, it's still choked up with thousands of dead trees that were ripped from the mountainside during the violent, explosive eruption. Looking south, we can see Mount Hood in Oregon, and to the east, Mount Adams, Washington's second highest peak at 12,281 feet. While this scenery is a bit softened by its green carpet of forest, this is nonetheless a striking and imposingly rugged landscape. I'm on national forest land just outside the Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument and poking up some roads, hoping to find a campsite with a view of the mountain. I found a nice spot with a spectacular view of the crater, but I've decided to move on.
It's almost 4. I'm not opposed to making camp at 4 o'clock if it's a great site, but I'd like to be able to enjoy being in the site, and there it was just brutally windy. The wind was probably not gonna stop. I wasn't gonna be able to have a campfire, and I didn't feel like just sitting inside the canopy for, you know, the next several hours.
So I'm exploring more side roads to see if I can find someplace a little more protected. I wasn't at all planning to be in this area, and I have no map data downloaded into Gaia GPS, so I'm flying blind and just trying to use some intuition, making turns up trails that seem somehow promising.
Well, I'm climbing up this really narrow, gnarly, primitive, unused road, but I keep seeing glimpses of mountains. If I could get to the top of this butte, I think it could be really cool. Well, I did get to the end of the road, and there is a good spot to camp here. There's a fire pit already, and it's definitely isolated. I'm off a road, off another road, off another road. And I'm pretty much at the top of this butte. It's pretty well forested, but I can see that over here, we got a little view of Mount Adams. That's pretty nice. I couldn't quite find a good enough clearing, but Mount Rainier is right there. And I suspect if these trees weren't here, we could see Mount St. Helens over in that direction.
The only way to know for sure is to fix the drone so I can get a peek above the trees.
This is not the first time this drone has crashed. It's also not the second time. It's also not the third time. This drone has taken quite a bit of abuse already. I bought it used off of eBay. It's a DJI Spark, and I have no idea how old it is. But it takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Ah, yes. Mount St Helens is indeed out there beyond the trees.
Every time I bring this thing back to Earth, I breathe a sigh of relief.
I stumbled upon some nice deadwood earlier in the day and collected enough to make a little fire for tonight.
It's around 6 o'clock. It's a little earlier than I would normally start dinner, but tonight's dinner I actually want to kind of let it simmer for a while. So I'm going to get some of the ingredients cut up and started cooking so they can sort of simmer together, and then later on, after we've got the fire built, we'll eat. Literally like 3 days ago, when I was sort of planning some of the elements of this trip a little bit last minute, I really just did not know what I was going to make for dinner, and I was going to grab some super easy stuff, kind of like I made last night. And then I happened to watch the latest video from aMAYSing Life. So my buddy David Mays from Tennessee, who I met at Jason's Patreon event, in his video he put together a burger using some hamburger that he had and some fresh jalapeno and some cheese. Now, I'm not doing that, but it just sort of inspired me. The beef and the jalapeno sounded interesting. You've often seen me eat chili on my camping trips when I don't feel like cooking. Open a can of Stag chili. And at home, I often make chili, but a little more from scratch. I'll use a big can of tomatoes, a few cans of beans, and some ground beef, some onion, and stew it up on the stove. Inspired by what David did with his burgers and the fresh jalapeno, I thought I'm going to try it rather than using powdered chili spice like I do when I cook it at home, is just cook up the meat and beans with some fresh jalapeno and fresh habanero and stew some tomatoes in there and see what happens. I mean, it may not be exactly like chili out of a can, but I don't think it can be bad. Well, the sun has gone down and it's really starting to get cold out here. We're at about 4,500 feet, so it's not super high elevation, but it's not low either. So let's get a fire going. So glad it's cold and wet again. I'm sipping a North Coast Old Rasputin Stout tonight. Perfect for a chilly evening on top of a Cascade Butte. Alright, that chili has been simmering for about an hour now. The sauce is really thickening up nicely. I think we're about ready to go sit in front of the fire and enjoy this. Not bad. It's just the right amount of heat. Doesn't quite taste exactly like a chili that you'd make with chili powder and other like dry spices. But it's got a nice little heat to it. Not bad at all. Oh, it feels great tonight. That's perfect. So here we are, after a dynamic and interesting sunrise over Mount Adams this morning. I got camp packed up and it is now time to air up and head home.